Hello everybody, welcome to Rewrite Your Reality with Reese. I am your host, and on today's video, Neville Goddard style revision, remembering as infinity. Now, revision and remembering. When you remember something, you absolutely believe you are remembering it exactly as it happened. You think that what you're remembering is the physical version of what happened, that this is what happened. This is what you're remembering. You believe that almost unquestioningly. But it's never actually the same physical version that you experience, it's always a similar one. You are remembering it from your now awareness, not from then. That version of you that you experienced back then had a different level of awareness, but both versions of you exist simultaneously. The reason you believe or unquestioningly experience that memory as true is because you have awareness of another version of yourself that you did experience physically, and you're calling it forth in that way that matches your belief that it already happened in the physical world. Because the memory feels similar enough, you don't realize it's actually a new creation. You call it forth with the belief that it's something you already experienced, so it looks like reality and you don't question it. Now, in this little diagrammatic that I have here, I'm just going to explain all that a little bit more in depth. Take anything. You're walking down the road. You have this physical 3D experience of yourself walking down the road. You don't really question it when you think about it later on. But later on, when you are thinking about it, that is revision in action unconsciously. You are revising the identity that you are now. Similar enough to something that you already believe existed in your past, and that is where it stays. But here's the thing, that physical experience and that later on imagined experience are two separate identities with their own past. And no, that later on version is not the same, does not have the same past as that physical version. They're all different. They're all themselves. They're all unique. They're all part of source. They're all just potential. Wherever it is now, it's actually gone back into the quantum field of that makes up the entirety of you. Now, when you revise, you're basically shifting your entire focus into another version of yourself as that reality, experiencing it from your point of view. So if you're just simply, if you revise, instead of walking, you were driving, you were in a car, whatever that means, right? You had a lift, you got an Uber, you were the one driving, whatever that means. You embody that completely. The past, when you are experiencing it in your imagination as your imagination, when you are driving the car in your imagination as your imagination, it has its own past, it has its own future. We often get confused because, okay, well, in my imagination, this past and the future that I obviously have here while I'm driving my car, where's that past in relation to where I am? It's connected to your literal physical experience as well. Every past, every future, and every moment of the present is all a simultaneously superimposed version, a singular version of reality, this one unified verse. You can move anywhere instantaneously because there is a story for you to move there that you can experience linearly, but the experiencing of it is always ever changing experience of your point of view as awareness itself. Show that later, but just know that. You shift as awareness into that timeline regardless of the experience, or if the experience looks the same. It's always changing into and as what you assume yourself to be. The previous is back into potential. So that walking version, even if you do experience it again, it doesn't matter because you're not that identity. It doesn't really matter why you're experiencing. You can give it any story you like. Fearful experiencing, no, I'm experiencing this because it's polarity, or it's no longer my wish fulfilled, or it's something to show me that this is not who I am anymore. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You spend more time trying to figure out why you're experiencing something instead of just experiencing what you want. Experience it fully, completely. I'm not saying don't understand why you are experiencing something. It's fun, right? But know that when you shifted your awareness into this version of you that is driving, you as awareness are being the entirety of it. You don't know what the unfolding of that script looks like. It has a past, it has a future, and you have no idea if you walking again and again and again has anything to do. It is not in the script. You don't know that. So just assume that because you have imagined it, whatever you are doing is part of the script. But don't let the doing be something you do in order to be in that script. Your imagining means you are already in that script. Your whatsoever you imagine yourself as and in and accept as true for you means you are in that script. But don't try to be in that script. That means you are in another script where you are trying to be in another script. In very literal sense. Your true form as awareness, not you thinking that your consciousness is connected to this other thing. The literal you that is thinking, the literal you that is consciousness, the literal you that is conscious right now, that is knowing you are experiencing hearing words, knowing you are experiencing thinking, knowing you are experiencing whatever, knowing you are watching something on screen. That's awareness. You have no past as awareness. Awareness has no past. It is the container and the beingness of all identities, which all have a past and a future. Every single identity you choose does. And it shifts to that reality experience as it instantaneously in the imagining of it, because you call forth the entire live stream right then and there. Now, when you imagine your wish fulfilled, moving to another country, finding your partner, being with your partner, driving the car you want, whatever it is, you don't have a physical anchor, a physical remembrance of your imaginational experience. You have nothing to compare it to, basically. You can't compare it to a thing you already did, thinking, oh no, it's that. You know it's something new you're calling forth, and then you struggle to believe in it because you don't have an equivalent resting point or comparative point where you can use as a permission slip to believe, hey, yeah, this is what I believe in. Well, that's all what memory is, really, right? You're giving yourself permission to believe that this is memory, and you're giving yourself to permission eventually to say this is memory or it isn't. But it can't be isn't because I am not doesn't exist. So no prior physical reference to assure you, yes, I can experience this. Here's the insight. You never really experience the same thing twice anyway. Even with memory, you're only ever recreating it from the current awareness. Think about it. You've never had the same day twice, no matter how similar that day was. It's like, oh, I had this day again. No, but you didn't. So belief and non-belief don't actually matter. They don't make creation stronger or weaker. What matters is acceptance. Because you just accept that this is true, you call it belief and you end up experiencing it fully, which is what you refer to as your past memory. You accept that you are this version. That belief is basically a byproduct. It's not necessarily a requirement. It's your acceptance that this is real that lets you, or rather you let yourself experience it fully, going all in on it. The acceptance that this is who I am. You are always creating through your own awareness, being it, always calling forth experience by knowing it. Not from non-existence to existence, but from potential into form. You are the creative center, the defining mind, the divine mind. So whether you are revising, remembering, or imagining, you are always doing it again and new. You believe in the memory because it's familiar to a physical experience you have already had. You doubt the wish fulfilled because you haven't yet recognized that physical version of yourself who's already living it. So let the awareness of it be the evidence. Say, yeah, I'm going to believe in this because of my awareness of it. I'm willing to believe it. Because belief isn't the key. Your willingness to accept and embody the state, to be it completely, that matters. That's conviction. I have the conviction in that which I am aware of is absolutely already mine. Mine as awareness, not mine physically. You physically have zip. That's what you're already doing every single time you remember. You believe in your memories, even though they are new creations that you're becoming aware of and you were just accepted them as true. So do the same thing with your wish for forth. Call it forth. Live it as if it were already true. Live and be it as if it is literally already true. Not just in your 3D moving around, but they're true. But in your imagination, call it forth and live it as if it were a memory. Say, I'm remembering this. Be willing to believe it enough to fully experience it, to embrace it completely and then release it knowing it is true. Don't hold on to it, rather. And there is no need to hold on whatsoever. It's not going anywhere. In fact, the more often you don't hold on to this thing, the more often it pops it back into your own awareness by itself, because that's what you want anyway. You want to keep on playing with your wish fulfilled. Why not? And as source, you are always shifting identities that have their own illusionary past and future. Like I said, choosing a timeline is choosing a set of identities that this is real for. Experience it in imagination is to experience what you are knowing to be true and accepting to be true for you. Your imagination feeling more natural is not that you finally settle down into the imagination. It's the continuous shifting your focus to versions of reality experience that you are accepting to be true from a knowing. In other words, when the scene becomes natural and felt, it's because you call it forth with an acceptance that this is who you are now. That's a very long-winded way to say that, right? Now, Neville Goddard has these two quotes that I thought were quite apt. The essential feeling of naturalness can be achieved by persistently filling your consciousness with imagination. Imagining yourself being what you want to be or having what you desire. When he says filling your consciousness with imagination, your consciousness is everything in imagination anyway, just a way to explain it. If you don't feel natural about what you want to be, you will not be it. Why is that? Because when you're not feeling natural about something, you are calling it forth with some kind of prerequisite, some kind of circumstance, some kind of conditioning, some kind of something. So you aren't actually calling forth what you want. You're calling forth me not being it yet. That's why sometimes you experience something very close to it. Sometimes you experience the opposite of it. Whatever these reasons, they don't really matter. It's all happening now anyway. So when you call forth the reality that you desire to experience with the conviction and willingness to believe that, hey, this is true. This is the truth. I'm willing to believe that this is true. I'm willing to believe my own awareness of it is actually my existence of it, is actually the beingness of it. Then you call it forth as a natural experience for what it is you want. And that's exactly what you want. So call it forth knowing that there is no circumstance, condition, and prerequisite that stops me from imagining what I desire fully. And by the way, the feeling of this won't happen is also just a prerequisite. That's just another thought that you have there, that you just believe in, that stops you from allowing yourself to completely experience it. So it doesn't matter if it happens or doesn't happen. It doesn't matter if you believe that or don't believe that. Are you willing to experience it fully and be it fully, regardless of anything? Because the complete abandonment is you buying the pearl at great price and experiencing your desired reality fully anyway. And that's what's creative. And I am your host, Reese. This is Reset Your Reality with Reese. Thank you all for being here. Much love, much light. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the comments. They were quite wonderful today as well. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the TikTok page. Thank you for joining the Facebook page. Thank you for the emails. Thank you for everything. Much love, much light, and I will see you all in the next one.